And we're live.
I thought you were going to play the music and nothing sounded, and I wanted to burst out laughing.
But oh, well, no,
I
first you say
refrained.
this is the unedited version of the Sunday Morning Linux
yes.
Review.
Hello, everyone. This is the raw, unedited version of the Sunday Morning Linux Review. If you wish to listen to the final version of our show, please go to smlr.us. Thank you.
The Sunday Morning Linux Review with Mary Tomich, Tom Lawrence, and Tony Bemis as the Beaver.
And this is episode 196.
New digs, new home,
New
New
studio.
new studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're still with Podcast Detroit, but we have moved buildings and they are expanding. And
The Royal Oak offices of Podcast Detroit.
Right. We're going from one studio to 4 studios now.
Yeah.
We each get our own studio?
We each get our
No.
own studio. So we can do remote broadcasting from separate rooms.
That's right. But just for people who may not be familiar with it, it's called Trendy Royal Oak.
Trendy.
That's right. And
It was Fabulous Ferndale. Now it's Trendy Royal Oak.
That's right.
All right.
And we're a little further out from Detroit, but that's okay. But no, it's really actually pretty nice. Very easy to find
Yes.
on a Sunday morning.
That's right.
It's got good parking. I park right in front of the door. I have no stairs to carry anything up or down, which is good because it's so early in the morning.
I didn't even recognize your car. I thought, oh, that must maybe somebody from Podcast Detroit's here to greet us today
No one
on
from
Sunday
Podcast-
morning.
Right.
Yeah. Dave is like, make sure you get your key because I'm not waking up that early.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said that to us before.
Yeah. No.
So
They treat us well here and we're nice to them. We don't call them in warnings.
yeah, that's true.
We just keep mashing on the buttons until the system works.
That's right, Tony.
We do our own tech
He had to
support.
do a little extra mashing this morning, though.
That's right.
But I think we got it all straightened out.
Yeah, finally got it going.
We have different microphone numbers, which was confusing to us.
Yeah.
Us creatures of habit.
I went from a 10 to an 8 or something. What
Yeah.
happened there?
Yeah. I don't know, what did I
Of
move
course, I'm
to?
just glad I was an 8.
Actually, what
Right.
happened is Mary used to be on 5, and now you're on 8.
So you've actually went up.
You went
I've
up,
gone
yeah.
up. All right. That's
And
great.
and Tom's gone from 4 to 2.
Which I'm appalled.
Although I'm number 1, so that's how it should
Oh, okay. All right. All right. We know who assigned all those now.
be.
Yeah. Tony takes care of all the mixing boards. We just kind of watch.
Mhm.
There's a lot of buttons in front of him.
Tom and I are just the pretty faces.
Right.
Tony knows what all those knobs do. I have
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah.
I don't either.
Yeah. Well, what we're referring to is that we're sitting at a table that it's an 8 top. So means there's 8 microphones on this table and 8 people can sit around it. The mixer is
So if
sitting
you're in
at
town, come join us.
Yeah.
Yeah. The mixer sitting at seat 1 and it goes around the table
Counterclockwise.
and yes, counterclockwise. So Tom is sitting to my right, which would be mic number 2, and Mary's sitting to my left, which would be the end of the circle, which would be
Mhm.
8.
Mic number 8.
That's right.
Okay. We've got that figured out. So let's find out what we were all up to in the last few weeks.
Oh,
It's
we
been
did stuff.
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks.
Mother's Day was in the middle there, so we had to.
Was it?
No, it was that was
Maybe on your calendar,
Memorial
Tony.
Day. That's
Memorial
right.
Day. There we go.
The other M holiday
Yeah.
Yeah.
in May.
So I went out to my parents' house for the weekend. We did some grilling, got out in the boat out on the lake.
Chilling and grilling.
Yeah, some beer and boating, and that was probably one of the best weekends I've had this year yet.
Well, you only have 4 months worth of weekends out of your whole life, but I guess this year you qualified it.
That's
But
right.
that sounds pretty good though. It was a great holiday weekend as far as
It was really great weather and everything. Yeah, I own a pop-up camper now, so and I keep it at my parents' house. So we went over there to check it out and clean it up. And
Did you not aware you own this? Or this is like a new acquisition?
it's a new acquisition.
Okay.
Oh.
I technically bought it in January,
You just never
but
looked
it's
at
been
it.
snowing and haven't been out there much. So
the
yeah,
snow melted around it so you could get in, or what?
pretty much.
All right.
Anyway, so
How
now
many people does it sleep?
6 people.
Wow, that's pretty good
6, yeah.
size.
It's
So
a
how
pretty
many
good
are in your
pop-up.
family now? 5?
There's 5. Yeah.
Well, you got to get one more. That's a joke.
Right. No, but there's like groups for pop-up campers that I didn't know about, like people that own them, people that modify them. So now I'm getting into the world of pop-up camper.
They're pretty cool.
Pop-uppers.
Yeah.
Me and the wife are actually looking at those, and then we don't have a vehicle to pull it, so we changed our mind about that. We're looking at getting an RV because I am shocked at how cheap you can get an RV for.
You know, it might be cheap, but
I have
it's
no idea.
more expensive in the long run.
They're expensive on maintenance, but we're talking like
hey, but who thinks long term?
Who thinks long term? No, we're actually looking at some of the ones. You can buy some of the ones from the 80s, the 30, 40-foot ones. Some of these are like $3,000. I'm like, it's unbelievable. You can buy a driving house that has a bathroom that is only, like a few $1,000.
The key word, Tom, is driving. Is it drivable?
Oh yeah, these are like completely running and drivable. Some of them only.
How many gallons per mile do you get?
Yeah,
3.
A lot of them are pretty bad on that. We're looking at the small ones. Toyota makes some that are really popular because the Toyota ones generally get about 15 miles to the gallon.
Holy cow!
They're kind of small, but it's kind of like the right concept where we don't want anything huge, and we want we're gonna do a lot of custom work to it.
Yeah,
we haven't decided if we're gonna buy it or not, but we've been looking at a handful of them. So
nice.
I need to leave sometimes.
You know, the problem with motorhome is if you're going to drive it at all that year, you have to register it for an entire year as a vehicle.
Yeah.
So you have to pay for insurance and registration every year for that. Where if it's a trailer, you don't have to.
Right. And they have special RV insurance that's pretty cheap. But we're actually, if we get one, we'd be using it like every weekend. Because neither one of us really, I work weekends, but I don't. You know what I mean? It's just kind of, I control my schedule. So we talked about if we did it and just start taking off every weekend.
Yeah.
Getting away. Go somewhere else. As long as there's Wi-Fi.
I've been learning that there's. Do you have internet?
I've been learning that all these campgrounds have Wi-Fi. I didn't know this.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's really cool.
My cousin does a lot of camping. She complains that she calls it glamping. She goes, "You can't go places with Wi-Fi." I'm like, "Oh, there's places with Wi-Fi, really?" I'm like, I'm completely like the thing you hate because I'm gonna bring my laptop. She's like, "You can't go on vacation bring your laptop." I'm like, "Oh no, I will. This is vacation to me.
It's relaxing." Well, yeah, because then you're doing what you want to do with it instead of like work stuff.
I'll just use my laptop somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right.
So, all right. So,
I remember trying to do a show from a state camp, 3 years ago, and there was no Wi-Fi at that time, so I had to drive over to a McDonald's.
I remember that.
And I was sitting in a McDonald's.
You could hear stuff in the background. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was a tough episode.
People think you're talking to yourself. They're like, what's he doing?
They did, yeah. That was funny.
Anyway. Yeah. Here's this man sitting at McDonald's by himself talking. Yeah, they probably looked at you very suspiciously. All right. I think we're going to move on.
Yeah. So, Mary, what did you do?
Well, what I did is I think I do that sometimes, but I don't believe that we had an episode since I went to the Semi-Bug meeting, Southeast Michigan BSD Users Group meeting. Ike Levy from the Nice Bug, New York City BSD User Group.
Oh yeah, he said he came in.
And that was he talked about jail. That was it was fun and interesting and all of that. And then Michael Lucas provided us with a review copy of his book. It's Advanced ZFS Mastery. So we're going to be looking at that and reviewing that in an upcoming episode. It'll probably be one of our fresh looks, I think, sometime this month. And what else did I do? I think, I already got my computer set up and all of that. I guess that's, today I'm going to be picking up a Mac.
Uh-oh.
Not a new one, but my Uber geek friend Ruth has, she's moved on to another computer, but she's giving me her Mac.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're going to install, is it x86? How old is it?
It's probably maybe 4 or 5 years old, I think.
I'm sure it's an Intel processor.
I'm sure it is.
You could load just about anything on it then. It doesn't have to be Mac OS, or you can put Linux or BSD on it.
Yeah, I think BSD would be kind of fun to try putting on there.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see what I do with that. So I got her some beer and some other stuff. So just to, because she was just going to give it to me. So, but she's very very kind and generous like that. And then I went to the Shinola sale yesterday. So anyway, so that was kind of fun, and that was it.
All right.
That I can think of. I'll interject later in the show if I remember something else.
Okay.
Speaking of Michael Lucas, I really, as I went to his talks at Penguin Con, and he's fun. The first time I met him in person was at Penguin Con, but he said knowing him online, and definitely he does a great job with the talks. His ZFS talk was really enlightening.
Oh yeah, he's very
he's
enjoyable.
fun too.
He is very much so. Yeah, he's humorous, and he's going to actually be on his way to BSD Can, which is and we'll get into that during the Linux convention scene.
Oh, cool.
But that's coming up, and he's going to be there, I think, giving some talks too.
Nice.
So, yeah, he was very prolific in this talks at Penguin Con.
Yes.
Yeah, he had a lot of talks.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know what though? He does a good job at it, so definitely enjoy that.
He does. I was listening to the BSD Now podcast, and they were talking about it, and they said that he had submitted these talks just to see which ones they wanted, and they took them all.
Like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, but that's what happens when you're good.
Where is it at, that BSD Con?
It's in Ottawa. So
okay.
I'm going to be out of town next week in Nebraska, but if I weren't, I was seriously considering going because I just would go over to Windsor and then hop via rail, I think, which is Canada's rail system, and just go from Windsor to Ottawa on the train.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done that. It's
how is it?
It's a pretty good ride.
Yeah.
It's not that, it's what, 5-6 hours?
It's about 4 hours to Toronto, and then from there another 4 hours, I think.
So is it another 4 from there?
Yeah, to go to Ottawa. I think, I believe so. Apologies to any Canadians who are listening who, you know how we are about the geography up north.
Yeah.
But
I did it from Windsor to Montreal, and that's where I got off. Or I don't know. It was I don't know if it's quite that far to Ottawa as Montreal or.
Well, I bet you some quick Googling will fix that for us.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, it was.
The biggest difference between flying and train is you have to keep.
Well,
all
one
your
is
luggage.
on the ground and one isn't.
But you have to keep track of all your luggage. Where in a plane they move it all for you. In a train you have to, if you leave the train.
You got to make sure you leave with your luggage.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes the airline does not keep track. I'm gonna throw that out there.
Right.
All right. So anyway, BSD Can is next weekend.
Cool.
All right. So I guess we're going on. Right? Were you done? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom, you talked about campers, but you didn't talk about what you did last weekend.
We didn't do anything with campers. Actually, I've been busy doing all kinds of stuff, still trying to scope out a place in Detroit to open our second office. My YouTube channel, I've been trying to do weekly updates to that. That's been one of my goals and challenges. Been almost about weekly posting new videos. So that's been going well.
Now, Tom, for our listeners, what kind of videos are these? Are these tutorials or just it's talking about experiences? Is
both.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes I throw is my more really popular ones are the ones I do on firewalls. And I can't help but laugh. And I still reply thanks even when people essentially, I don't know how to say insult. And once a guy basically left a comment going, that whole talk you did, you should have used a new interface. You completely wasted an hour of your time doing this video. And I'm like, sorry, it already has 11,000 views in a couple of weeks. Sorry, it's not up to your standards, and you felt compelled to comment on it.
Oh, it was a previous version of PF Sense or something?
Yeah, above the PF Sense one.
Okay.
I just kind of laugh because people say weird things. I get weird messages like that sometimes. They just felt compelled to let me know I should redo it with the new interface. I'm like, I will. Well, you wasted your time with the old one. I said, thanks. It's really weird the comments people get sometimes.
Well, I think that, but even with the new interface and maybe
it functionally, other than the interface being different, it functionally is the same program.
So the menus and
Right.
all of those things are people. In other words,
They give it a
even if they're
facelift.
looking at so it's just cosmetic.
It's very cosmetic.
Okay.
They made really minor changes. They eliminated just a couple little things that weren't stuff like you wouldn't use. Like they deprecated things going, well, no one uses this feature. So we're just so it's not like the whole talk should be scrapped. It's like, I'm going to redo it because I redo it every few months.
It's like the Band-Aid on my nose. Even though I have this little Band-Aid on my nose, you still know it's me. Okay.
I did have fun.
All right.
I did a talk to a group of MBA students about marketing and advertising, which turned out to be fun. They are this is what's weird. So I'm over at U of M, and I got invited because they seen I do some other public speaking events and I talk on business topics. So they invited me to talk, and I'll be doing
at the Ross School.
At the business school of U of M in Dearborn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's, just their MBA class. And I was like, it was interesting to me to see a bunch of young people that were unaware of a lot of social media marketing. They're blissfully unaware of how any of that works. And which was like unusual to me. It seems like my mental image of a bunch of young people in their 20s that are college students is having a good grasp on how the marketing works inside social media. But oddly, they didn't.
Well, yeah. And I probably because they're maybe old enough. I mean, social media now is just really big stuff, but maybe they're old enough to be, and so it wasn't as big back in their formative years, and maybe they just haven't put two and two together.
And I think there's some of it too. So I'm like, it's a waste of time. So I focus on school. So I'm rejecting social media so I don't get, sucked into the time wasting aspect of it. And
time wasting?
Yeah, I'll admit I've been sucked in a couple rabbit holes of time wasting on Facebook, but
yeah,
but yeah, it's a whole other topic. But other than that, I did some biking because, like Tony said, the weather was amazing. Went on a nice 50-something mile bike ride, and
good for you.
Yeah, trying to get more exercise.
I thought about bike riding.
Well, that's a start. That's where it starts.
I went downstairs and pushed down my tires, and they were flat. And I said, I can't ride my bike today.
It's a start. You got to start thinking about it. Then maybe you put some air in the tires and move on from there.
My neighbor's a bike builder. So he said, check both tires. Because I just checked one. And once I found out one was flat, I couldn't ride it. And so, because he said if both are flat, then that's probably just, they just leak air out, I guess, over time. Versus if one is flat and one isn't, that may be indicative of an issue.
Yeah,
like a nail or something in my tire.
And I will throw this out there, as I still haven't updated my profile page on SMLR. I'm going to set a reminder to do that. My website's lawrencesystems.com with links to my YouTube channel and stuff like that. Because I think we had a couple people email us before.
Yeah, about trying to find your YouTube channels.
Oh, yeah, and actually someone did email me, and I helped them out getting the auto shredder set up. So that was kind of cool. Then he started doing the change requests. He sent me an email. Can you make this mod? This mod. I'm like, whoa, it's on GitHub, and Phil maintains it. And I'm a horrible coder, but please submit it to Phil. Phil's very organized, and if you submit things to his GitHub, who wrote it, he actually looks for those, because Phil's hyper focused and really back-end systems guy, but everything has to be organized. And if you meet Phil, you understand. You can't just say something to Phil. Phil will stare at you and go, "You please put that on my GitHub, because I can't remember that right this moment."
Right.
But he does a good job of organizing things like that. So, but that's been cool. We still use it every day to shred hard drives all day at work. So
excellent.
Yeah, nice.
That's about it. Let's jump to the next topic.
Onto listener feedback. Which we were just kind of talking about.
We want to hear from you. Call 734-258-7009 or email show@smlr.us with your feedback and questions.
All right, so we have to go back like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm pulling it all up right now.
So Mary, did you see anything come through? Do you want to talk about? It's all right.
I know 5150 left us voicemails.
Yep. I'm trying to go. I wanted to go kind of in chronological order, but if you
why would you want to do that?
Were you guys able to listen to those voicemails?
Yeah, but
I forwarded the email. I didn't know if you guys could access it at that point or not.
I didn't. Did you forward voicemails?
I forwarded an email that had a link to a voicemail.
I missed it.
Okay. So we had an email back and forth from listener Jeremiah. He was asking us how we did the sound intros.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and basically, I have a set of 12 sound bites that are the whole sentence, just an MP3 or an OGG file that I hit the button and it plays it. And I hit the next button, for the next. So for feedback, listener feedback you just heard, I just hit one button and it played it.
Yep. And it's done on Antique HTC. What version of Android is that running?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. It's probably Gingerbread.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically how I go about doing that. And then I have those same sound bites on the for post editing So if one of these, either I miss it or doesn't play through right, then I can replace it. But mainly I just replace the intro and outro, and then let what I play during the show, just leave those in so I don't have to search through it in the time.
Very convenient.
Yeah.
We like it simple.
Yeah.
We do complicated things all day. We don't want the podcast to be complicated.
No,
Right.
that's right.
JPW had called, or he emailed saying that he had called and talked to somebody. He talked to me, and I forgot all about it when we were on the last few shows.
Whoops.
But yeah, he had called and talked to me, and I said, you got to call back and leave a voicemail. And then he left a voicemail.
Well, wait a
And then I
minute.
forgot all about that too. So it's all my fault.
So the feedback line, is that just a voicemail line, or is that
Yeah, it's
or do you
voicemail. It comes into
accidentally-
my email.
or do you accidentally pick it? Okay, because I was trying to figure out how you talk to him. I thought maybe you picked up the phone.
It's actually a phone number. It rings on my phone.
Mhm.
And if I pick it
Oh.
up, then I talk to the person, obviously. So if I, I told him to call back and I won't answer. So that's what he did. He left a voicemail. But you know what happened? I'm gonna blame the meds on this, because I think it was a day after I had my surgery.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
And I completely forgot all about it. So what I'm going to do is, I don't have it queued up right now, but I can add it in a post. Did you guys probably didn't even get to listen to it yet, have you? Those,
Mm-mm.
okay. So you guys can talk about what you think about it.
Well,
So
We're in the
well,
dark. Enlighten us, Tony.
yeah.
honestly, it's been so long I can't remember right now.
Oh,
I'd have to
you're
listen to it
hoping.
over again.
So you're actually hoping we would remember.
Or you know what? Actually, maybe I can play it. Give me a minute. I'll play it in a few minutes. I had another few emails from Larry, and Larry he's a listener, and he grew up in the same town that I live in right now, but he's living down south now. Although we have lots of similar interests, and actually we're sharing out Plex media.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah,
Hey, sharing all the latest movies,
right.
shows
That
that we own legally.
Right.
I was.
I want the
I'm
Case-
glad that we got that clarified.
yeah. We clarify that.
Yes. So, all right.
So we had another email from Frank Bell, and he's looking for a T-shirt. Except for the problem is that the smallest shirt we have is a 1X, and he said he's a medium. So we don't have any in his
I have a
size
sewing
right now.
machine.
You'll shrink it down for him,
Take it in.
right?
Hmm.
And then we had another email. Somebody looking for a shirt, M&M.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it available on the website. So what we're doing is, if you make a contribution of $30 or more, then I will send you a T-shirt. And in the contribution, you can add comments. So just put in the comment, what size you want, or I'll email you if you want, ask you what size you want. All we have is 1X and 2X right now. So let us know what you want.
Well, what if somebody is smaller? Like, what if they're a medium or a large? What will happen?
It's a good
And
question.
I think I'm supposed to get a second shirt, aren't I?
Yeah, I forgot. That's good.
It's the meds.
It is.
All right, we'll deal with that later.
All right.
I still have them. So,
Okay, good.
but
Victor had some feedback on your security. He liked your security talk. You see that in the show?
I didn't see that.
Yeah, look for it's Victor 2 show.
Good.
Yeah. Firstly, sincere thanks. I'll
Yeah.
read the email real quick. Firstly, sincere thanks to all of you for putting on a great podcast. It's really appreciated. I can only imagine how much time and effort you all put in. The end result is fun, entertaining, and informative. Thanks.
Those are three key things: fun, entertaining, and informative.
That's right.
This is one of my. I like to refer to this as one of my passion projects. You know what I mean? Because it is. We all put our free
Yeah.
time into this, and we're
Mhm.
here early on Sunday mornings. But we all love this. This is why we're all here.
Mhm.
And it's even more exciting when people also like it.
Yeah, because it lets me live vicariously as a comedian,
Yes.
which I love, and of course Tom with your vast knowledge, and then Tony with your acumen and expertise handling the audio and all that, and your very timely comments on various topics.
Thank you.
There.
Yeah.
I got us all covered.
He liked your talk, but what he asked, and I'm going to shorten it, not read the whole thing, but he's looking for a way to put some type of security on a phone for kids to keep them from wandering around. That's not easy.
No, it's not. And there is a few things I know for.
Well, wait a minute. When he says security on a phone, he's talking about
for his children.
No, I know that part. But it's all right, Tom.
I'm assuming it to be like block
You
apps.
can finish
Yeah.
my
or
sentence.
yeah.
And so can you, Tony. What I'm talking about, is it just to locate them, or is it to prevent them from receiving calls except for certain numbers? Is it app related, or is it like all of the above?
It sounds like he's asking for all the above. But one of the things I do for my son, and it's less about the fact that I'm worried about him finding a chat app. It's more about that he'll load everything and click on everything.
Yeah.
Sure.
I set up.
And you'll be paying ransomware.
Yeah. Newer versions of Android support users, and you can set permissions. And what I do is I have me as a user and him as a user on the tablet, and anytime he says, "Oh, I seen this game," I watched one of my favorite YouTube video people, whatever he's seeing, whatever the latest game is, and he wants it on there, I have to log in as me, download it, and then you have to implicitly allow each application. And that's built into, I know it's built into Marshmallow. I'm trying to remember when they added it, though. I think it was just before Marshmallow that was the first version that supported it. But Marshmallow is well implemented, and it lets you implicitly set permissions, where the downside is it does break some things. There's a couple games that require like constant Play Store access because of something they're doing. So it does. There's a couple games that just don't seem to be compatible with it, but a lot of the games are. But it also keeps them out of the Play Store. So you lock out the Play Store as something they can't run. So they don't have any ability to add apps. The downside is he talked a little bit about like web surfing.
Downside is he bugs you all the time, right?
Dad, hands me the tablet. So that is the downside. But on the upside, it's not filled with applications. He filled it up last time when he had admin privileges, and I let him use my account because I buy some things and I let him use it. And then I'm like, what is all this stuff popping up? Because what it does, it says, do you want to share your email address? He hits accept because it's not his email address.
Right.
He's subscribing to everything.
Oh my God.
Granted, it's a separate account I have for my personal stuff, but it's like it got filled up with things.
Right. And I have a tablet for my kids, and I found this. I think it's called Kids Launcher.
Oh, okay.
And you replace the actual launcher, and in that it gives them a specific their own little environment where
cool.
you to get out of it you have to put in a PIN code to be able to add apps, or you go into the configuration and you say they can only access these like 6 applications or whatever.
Okay.
And obviously the Play Store is not part of it. There's
Right.
a few other things. There's some settings you can say if there's in app. No, it wasn't in the launcher, but like for each of the apps, I made sure to turn off in-app purchases, things like that. And then so they can get on there and I can just give it to them and walk away. And I know they're not getting onto bad sites because they don't have access to a web browser.
Ah, okay.
It's just like the 6 apps really I gave them.
And you could do that in Marshmallow too, because I think the web browser is one of the things I have restricted. He doesn't have a use for it, and because it's implicitly allow, you don't accidentally forget things. If you don't allow it by default, everything's not allowed when you set up the new user.
Yeah.
So
nice.
you have to go in and say, okay, which game you're playing? Oh, this one and this one. All right, and you turn them on.
Yeah.
Which it does solve the problem of not having to create an account for them too, because if I buy a game under my account, I can load it on that one, create a user, and it still lets the purchase games work under his user.
Nice.
And you don't need to have an address or anything. It's just a user only to that tablet. It's not like you have to create another Gmail account or anything like that. It's a separate user on that tablet.
Yeah. When I was reading about that, how to set it up for the kids, I saw people talking about being able to create accounts, but the version of Android I had on there just didn't support it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It has to be a newer version of Android.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps Victor. Maybe if you can find the link and send it to him for the kids launcher that you're using.
Yeah.
That might help him too.
Okay.
Because I don't know what version of Android he's running. But if you're running an older version, then my solution doesn't work.
Right. Exactly.
I think Marshmallow, they said, it's like at 6% right now too. It's really not many devices running it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was either KitKat or Lollipop on there. It's probably KitKat, so it's really old.
Yeah, I think Lollipop does support it.
Okay. All right.
Does that cover all of our feedback?
I'm pretty sure it did. Mary, do you
Yeah.
know of anything else?
No, I think it did cover our feedback.
Okay.
Excellent. All right, then we are going on to
Distro Fever, where we cover the latest hot distro releases and news.
all right.
Hey, and before we get started with this, I think it's appropriate that we give a little shout out to Distro Watch. You know, they just turned 15.
Ooh,
Wow.
I think it was last Monday.
yeah.
May 31st.
Congratulations. Happy
Yeah.
birthday.
Yeah, so they were just they started back in, and well, 15, well, whatever, 2016 minus 15 must be 2001.
Yeah.
I'm a math savant. Anyway, yeah, they said they began back in 2001. See, I did all that math work for nothing. It was right here all the time. But they started as a one-page HTML table reporting on key features and package versions for a handful of Linux distributions. And of course, you know, and you know the rest of the story. And today, of course, they're a very robust site, and the site that we go to for our distros that we talk about during this segment of the show. So,
That's right.
And speaking of that, were there any that caught you guys' eye at all?
I see Backbox's released this last couple weeks. So that looks pretty good. It's a, if you haven't heard us talk about it in the past, it's a penetration and security testing or assessment. I'm trying to look through to see what kind of, if they had any updated apps or adds or subtractions.
I'd be kind of curious, and it's probably out there, I'm sure, comparing that to Kali Linux. As far as I suspect that the tool set that they both have is pretty similar. I'm just wondering what the differences are. Might be worth checking into on a future episode, or if the work's already been done, we can just point people in that direction.
Yeah, it says it has updated kernel to 4.2. It's updated Beef and Dire Search, Metasploit, and OpenVAS. A couple other WP Scan. So yeah, I mean, a lot of those are common tools. I know that Kali has those also. So it's interesting.
Something I just did to make it, we've seen this as a 15-year anniversary. When you go to the filtering options, change it to 2001. And look at what they were talking about back then. It's kind of cool. They have all of it on there. So 2001 11.5, the new potato revision of Debian 2.2 R4 is a security update. They have all the old stuff, and it's kind of cool. I mean, that's 15 years ago. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's one good thing that they do. Well, one of many, of course, is you can backtrack, no pun intended there, to pages from years ago and just kind of see how things have evolved over time.
Oh yeah, and the popular things in the news here. I mean, this is pre-Ubuntu, of course, so it's all Red Hat and Mandrake. That's what most of the news topics are.
Mandrake.
Oh, there's SCO on here,
and SCO's on here as well.
SEO Caldera.
Yeah. SCO, Caldera,
LibreNet.
Yeah, this is
interesting.
It's kind of cool looking back that many years.
Yeah. ProdigyNet.
Trip down memory lane.
Or Progeny. Progeny. PROGNEY.
Progeny.
Progeny. Yeah, that must be it.
I'm Tony's pronouncement tester.
You are.
Yeah. I wonder when their first mention of Ubuntu is. When Ubuntu first released, was it 2006?
Oh, I think it was a little earlier than that.
4.
Pretty sure it's 2004.
Was it Warty? Warty Warthog? Wasn't that the first one?
I think so.
Okay.
They have Slackware. That was my first.
I was using Mepis back then. Because and I know I've said this a couple times on this podcast that was the first Linux distro that I got wireless to work with. I mean, I was just, troubleshooting it, and suddenly I had wireless working, and oh my God, I went screaming through the house. Yeah. I was so excited.
That's funny.
I know. And now now it works usually, unless I'm, I've got a couple of laptops that have Broadcom chips, so I struggle with that, but.
Yeah.
Well, not struggle, but you have to kind of jump through a few extra hoops, but it's worth it.
Yeah, their first mentions of Ubuntu are in 2004.
Well called, Tony.
Thank you.
You win the trivia.
Yes. And, actually what kind of caught my eye in this most recent crop of distro releases is the fact that Ghost BSD is on their second alpha release. And they did push out some updates before we went live with the show. Of course, I was updating my laptop since I haven't turned it on in 3 weeks. And then I thought something had gotten messed up, but as it turned out, it was all fine. And so I'm looking forward to the actual production release of Ghost BSD for my laptop. And the other one that kind of caught my eye was Linux Lite. Now, I remember about maybe 3 years ago or so, and this predates you, Tom, on the show. But I had reviewed Linux Lite as, during that time in the show's evolution, I was doing a review a week. It was slowly killing me, but anyway, Linux Lite was one of those distros I reviewed, and so I decided it'd be kind of fun to go back and take a look at it again. So our next Fresh Looks episode, will be on Linux Lite, and I'm also looking at it for another reason too, because I'm looking to put a Linux distro on some of my older little netbooks, and.
All right.
I found out it's not good to try to run Plasma 5 on 2 gigs of RAM. It just is slow. Because I'm running Kubuntu, and Plasma 5 is, you need at least 4 gigs of RAM to run it.
Right.
So when you run it on 2, it's slow. So we'll talk about Linux Lite.
Very cool.
Soon. So that's what kind of got my attention.
All right.
I've seen new Clonezilla, which we use to clone some things. It's a pretty neat distribution. So nothing really jumped out at me besides that, though.
Yeah. Usually when there's a Clonezilla release, a little bit later, there's going to be a Parted Magic release too.
Yeah.
So I look forward to that too.
Yeah, because we use that a lot for duping things, and when we're not using our which there's I got to do another review. There's a new software out we haven't switched to yet for doing imaging, another open source based program. It's kind of weird. The guy forked his own project. I'm not clear as to why. He didn't change the name. He appears to have just forked it. So it's the same developer, one guy, and he just, I'm doing this other project here. I'm abandoning the old one. Okay. He just wanted to start over with a new code base. So yeah, I got to put that together. It's an open source for imaging, kind of a replacement for people using Ghost and things like that.
Nice.
Well, sometimes you just want to make a fresh start.
Yeah, why not? Rewrite all that code.
All right.
Excellent. And then Deepin. Oh, Deepin. That's that pretty polished, that very polished Chinese distro. Had a release too. So I did not take a look at it though, so I'm not that excited about it, but it kind of caught my eye a little bit.
It does have a pretty interface.
Yeah, I mean it does, and it's got something that swings out from the right is a kind of a little, not a toolbar, but more of a little mini dashboard.
Yeah, like a mini control panel. As much as I'm not at all a fan of Windows 10, it is kind of nice the way they put the dash panel on the side there for Windows 10. For some of the services, they have something similar to that.
Oh, do
too.
they?
Yeah.
All right. I don't run Windows 10, so I have no idea.
You are lucky. It's good for business, though. I won't lie.
Right.
All these computers auto upgrading. We'll get on that topic in the news.
Oh yeah,
auto
I'm
upgrading.
sure we will. Okay, so I guess that's probably all we got for our distro fever.
Yep.
Yeah, going on to
We
the
didn't
news.
sound too feverish this week over distros, did we?
No.
They were all
Right.
asleep. They weren't releasing anything.
Well,
cool
it's
new.
holidays.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Tech news and views.
beep 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 beep. I miss our little Morse code
Yeah.
tech news, but that's okay.
I probably have it on here somewhere
That's all right.
in the
though.
old files. Yeah.
Yeah, it was I liked it.
All right. Yeah. I'll have to look
Tom,
up.
when we were deciding, I got to tell you this. When we were deciding what to use for that, we settled on the Morse code, but I had found some old teletype, that old teletype sound, which I thought just sounded so retro and cool.
I think one of the coolest things I took apart when I was a kid was one of those old IBM with the ball head typewriters. Those are cool. I took one of those apart. So
Selectrics.
the Selectrics. That was a cool device.
I know what they're called because I used to use one when we would
They were neat.
need to type up stuff.
It's like the noise they make and then whack, 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 whack.
Yeah, and then you could there's that little handle you could flip and remove the font ball and put a different one on. Oh, yes.
They had little font balls. That was so cool.
Oh, yeah. I tell you, man, it's just been a trip down memory lane. So, all right, well, on to the news. And we have news.
Mhm.
So,
You want me to start it off?
well, why don't you, Tom?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, why not? Ars Technica, I think, was the first place to break the news and really talk about it. But sorry, Oracle, you lost.
Yes.
Yeah, you're $9 billion, which, as someone who did the math, so $9 billion for 11,500 lines of code, that's $782,608 per line. So no, you can't have it. Fair use won, but there's still a lot more to it. I'm hoping this still sets a precedence that leads to some other stuff, because it's still not a complete clarification that you can use every API. It's a clarification in this case, but it doesn't have as much precedence in some of the other cases of fair use. So, yeah.
And speaking of that, Tom, I have to confess, I didn't do. I have to confess again, I didn't do a lot of research on it, but I thought, and that's only because I didn't think I was going to talk about it. I thought I read something about some kind of little program that will help you or help developers understand the licensing situation with APIs that they use. So I just wanted to, I don't know if you saw that or not.
Not that specifically, but there's still confusion, and it would be nice if just everyone would use GPL and life would be good, but they don't.
Or better yet, the FreeBSD license.
Or FreeBSD license. We're fine with that. Please just use an open source license on all this. But I mean, a lot of people realize this was a clear code run at Google because Oracle bought Java in order to sue Google. Well, they probably bought for other reasons, but at least that's one.
They bought it to sue Google?
Yeah. But I mean, it's one of those things, like in the early days when they were licensing this, nobody had a problem with it. And they go, wait a minute, they're making a lot of money off this thing.
Even Oracle didn't have a real problem with it because they were somewhat supportive, I think. Some of that came out in the court, and I think we talked about that when we did our fresh looks on that case. But of course, then since that episode aired, the whole thing, the verdict was rendered, and Oracle lost. And the Oracle lead attorney, Annette Hurst, posted a op-ed piece, I'll call it, on LinkedIn that said that to alert the developers that the GPL was dead, courtesy of Google.
Yeah. I know, it was.
Oh my goodness.
They've had some rants before, like when they told people to quit exploiting our system, quit researching for exploits in Java. You're the problem, being the researchers. I'm like, no, other people are doing this. We're trying to get you to fix it.
Well, and I think the comments, after she posted that piece on LinkedIn, the comments that came in from obviously people I think more knowledgeable than she was as far as the technical aspects, because she's a lawyer, so she knows the law and all of that. Although apparently, never mind, I won't even make a joke there, because I'm sure they're all smarting and feeling kind of pained about that. But there were quite a few technically inclined individuals who responded, indicating that she didn't really have a good idea of what APIs actually were. Right. So it's not that Google is infringing on Java. That's just that API is just that little kind of specifies how the thing is going to talk to each other. Right. And actually, I thought Steve Gibson, who gave one of my favorite demos, or gave a favorite example, analogy of an API. He says there's a common API for driving a car. The steering wheel's right there, the left pedal, right pedal, and the gear shifter. They're all common to a car. If they would have been able to patent how that interface works, think about how that would, if every car drove, some drove with sticks, some drove with this. They all drive with a wheel, the gas is on the right, the brakes on the left. Oh, that's a great, Yeah, and that's what he said. It's like someone trying to patent that just standard interface. And he said, if you didn't have a standard interface, all the car companies, every time you get in a car, you go, how do I drive this one? Yeah. Right. So I thought it was, real simple breakdown for kind of the general public going, this is what an API is. It's just a common interface to use things. It's not like they actually use, they just use the API. For compatibility and make development better or faster. Yeah, that's an excellent way to look at it. Yeah, and Google's is a weird case because they don't profit directly. They're not selling the Android. They license it for free. Google's an advertising company that makes money off ads. So it's kind of a weird run at them anyways, because they don't make, it's not like we copy the API, we repackage it and sell it as a product, because they don't exactly do that.
So enough about those people, and Larry Ellison won't be able to buy another yacht. He'll have to stick with the yacht he's got. I don't know if you know the whole story. Look up Larry Ellison's yacht for some entertaining reading.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
He built it in secrecy because he was trying to build one of the world's biggest yachts, and he would have spies go into the other yacht building yards to find out what was added on other people's yacht, and he would add it more on his.
Really?
Yes.
Oh man.
He's really Larry Ellis loves Larry Ellis and being the biggest and best at everything, but whatever. On to other news. Interesting Google Android location data police. Yeah. All that's happening a lot. So what they did was they had specifically a bank robbery, and they didn't identify the robber in the first time, but apparently the same guy came back and robbed the bank again several months later and got away, and they identified him, and they're trying to connect the case to the first time, and they were able to subpoena the phone records. Now, the good news is they're still going through the subpoena process. Now, they actually did a study to see how well this could be done before in oddly Canada, but there was a security research, and what they did was they had someone go around and say, we want you to call in threats from random places like on a payphone. We want to see if we can figure out who you are. So they let the security researcher do it, and just by using the metadata locations, they were able to say, coincidentally, this one phone was at all of the different locations where the threat was called in. So now they're using this data. Now, so far, they're doing it where they're subpoenaing it, but it's still, it gets in a gray area. When will it become compulsory? Will Google be required to report it? And so that's something to think about with all this location data and everything else that's constantly being on there. Like I said, the good news is so far it looks like we know about it because it's being followed through to our knowledge, the court process, but
oh, well, you got to stay on them.
It's another keep an eye on the privacy invasion that they do on there, because location's convenient because I use, the mapping features all the time. So I'm sacrificing giving up where I am so the GPS can find me. But
well, and along those lines, this is I hope this doesn't become the tinfoil hat segment of our show today. But Tom, I just wanted to interject another little news item because since you were on that topic, that kind of that security and Big Brother and tracking and blah blah blah. There were a couple of, and I posted this to my Google Plus stream, but there were a couple of Russian guys who have come up with an app called Find Face.
Oh yeah,
and what they've done, it's facial recognition, and right now it's 70%. It's only a matter of time. 70% accurate. And what they do is they just simply take a picture of you, and they can determine your identity and grab information about you. So I just see that as a great app for stalkers and other people who want to.
There's definitely getting there. I mean, with so many of us posting on social media and everything else, they can reverse that. Me and Tony were talking about that on the way here, how we have some friends that literally have 0 photos of their kids online. And one of my friends that does this, it's one of those things. He's very specific. He says, just don't take any pictures of my son, and my son will make the choice when he's old enough whether or not he wants to be online.
Yeah, that makes sense. And along those lines too, Microsoft apparently has patented some technology, and I think they did this a while ago, that can allow a billboard to determine who you are and show you personalized advertisements. So I guess my question is, if there's a lot of traffic around, so whose personal ad gets to show up on the billboard?
Whoever they think has the most money. Whoever's the most money.
Yeah.
So you can advertise. So, well, that's what happened in, do you remember Minority Report? Did you ever see that movie?
Oh, yes. Weren't there several Minority Reports? Or
I think there's just one.
The one
Matt
with Tom
Damon?
Cruise. The
Oh,
one with
okay.
Tom Cruise. Anyways, when he walks by a billboard, it right away recognizes him and shows him relevant ads.
Yeah. I hate that.
Yeah.
I like irrelevant ads. I don't care. It just makes me feel comfortable.
I know how Google would do that, though. Have individual ads coming off of a billboard. Is that, they're trying to do contact implants.
Yeah.
Google is.
They're not doing.
So
They're not touching my eyes.
Pop-up ads in my eyes.
That's right. It would see the billboard and then cover it up and say, because you're a Google user, then you get these ads.
See, that's why capitalism is really, well, I'm not even going to go down that rant because this is the Linux Sunday morning Linux review. Tony, I had to read that off your hat to make sure I said it in the right order. Otherwise, I would have just gone crazy. But anyway, yeah, we're really becoming a nation of consumers and not citizens, and I am kind of deeply troubled by that.
Yeah,
that's all I'm going to say at this point.
Yeah,
which is why I don't use Facebook. Well, I hardly use Facebook. And so
Right.
when I do go in there, because that's the only way I find out about my family, I'll see your stuff in there, and I want to just comment because you put some good stuff in there, Tom. I got to tell you, but you know, I think
the biggest thing to do is just raise awareness of it. Is like you know, just discussing it. Say, look, you're sacrificing this, and I know what I'm sacrificing.
Yeah.
I also know how to disappear. I turn the phone off, and not even the government knows where I'm at. I do think about that because they become very reliant on that as a way to track you.
Yeah.
But moving on to less tinfoil hat topics.
All right.
And if anyone looked at my YouTube channel, I do have a tinfoil hat security video I did where I make a tinfoil hat for the video. Anyways,
hey, if you put your phone in tinfoil, will the signals go through? Or is it just Mylar?
Yeah, there's a discussion on that. It doesn't block it quite as much as we had hoped. But
Oh, Mylar? It doesn't?
You need a little bit more of it because they're good at getting the signal out.
Two Mylar bags.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
Let's Encrypt. 4 million.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
They've doubled in the last.
It's people have heard of it now.
For those of us who didn't catch the last episode.
Yeah.
I mean, those listeners, I think I was there for that one. Refresh our memories.
Let's Encrypt is the free SSL certificates that are so we can encrypt everything and stop those people that make us wear tinfoil hats.
So you're saying in the last few weeks it's doubled.
I seen it when I clicked on the stats page. I seen it said 4 million, I believe. I'd seen it this morning. I was like,
excellent.
Wow. Because, this is what's funny. The article I read was only from a little while ago, and I clicked on it, and it linked to their stats page. It didn't link. It wasn't in the article. It said Let's Encrypt reaches 3 million. I'm like, great. I looked at it. I'm like, oh, I clicked the link, and it says 4 million. So even better.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, they keep kind of like real time stats as people download it, which just remind me I got to renew my certificate. I found a bug in my version of the auto renewal, and the reason there's a bug in my version,
you get a bug bounty.
Well, I'm using and this is really cool. If anyone listening is technical and wants to do this, you can, if you have something like an IIS or something non-Apache that encryption on, but you don't have ability to install the certificate inside there, you can do proxied encryption. And that's what we're doing because of the Screen Connect software I use for our remote support. For my business, we need it on SSL, and it's a real pain in the butt to get an SSL certificate in there. It's actually really difficult. I wish they'd rewrite it. They only have a method by which to do it on Windows servers, and I'm like, no, I don't want to run this on a Windows server. So we actually pass it through an Apache SSL through proxy, and it works perfectly fine. And it's actually kind of a cool use case. So you can have all kinds of different things that you want encryption certificates, like any type of devices that just don't have it or have the ability to do it. You proxy it through Apache, and the Let's Encrypt certificate lets you do that.
Wow.
So it works. Yeah, because it's just well, I should say not the Let's Encrypt certificate. The Apache lets you do that, and it works really well. The downside is the auto updater, because of the way it needs to actually interface with Apache and have a file on it to verify the update. I have to my script has to remove the proxy, restart Apache, run the tool, put the proxy back in, restart. But
yeah, you've automated all that. Of course.
I am still. It's really. I keep thinking I have it automated, and I look and I'm like, oh, it didn't work, and why didn't work this time? But that's I'll figure that out. I'm sure there's a typo.
Well, either that or maybe you have to insert a little pause for something to.
No, there's a typo. There's definitely typos.
I appreciate your candor.
Yeah, Tom types typos. And on a good news, Linksys and ASUS says, we don't care, FCC. We're going to let you guys open up the firmware on this. So they've, even though some of the other companies have said, no, we're going to comply with the FCC and not let you allow open firmware, ASUS and Linksys said, nope, you can keep putting firmware on there. I'm assuming they put some better lockdowns to make the FCC happy so you can't play with the wireless settings as much. But at least you can change out the firmware on them. So
nice.
I think, from a business perspective, I think that's a nice tactical decision in a positive way, because I think that then kind of not endears them to the community, but I think it just says people who are out to buy something are going to be more inclined.
Yes.
They're going to get the normal purchases from people who don't know this,
right,
like they would, but then they're going to get this little extra bump, I think, from people who.
Yeah, from people who care and see, yeah, this matters to me. So
good for them.
Yeah, I was happy to see that.
Show them the love.
So they have GeekWire talked about Amazon, who has decided to open source their AI. And the reason why they're doing it, which is good, follow the leader, Google open source TensorFlow, which is another AI program. We talked a little bit about it and how you had a law firm, you said, hired their first AI lawyer, and they're using a lot of this knowledge. And I love the fact that it's all being open source because, robots got to replace mundane things like driving and reading legal papers. So Amazon's AI system is now open source. I haven't got all the details of it, but at least I don't think it's all. It's all on. It's under an Apache 2.0 license, and it's all available on GitHub now. They did release it finally, so it's available. So that was pretty cool. We have OwnCloud. The cloud crashed. Something went wrong inside the company. I'm not clear on the whole story.
Saw that.
Yeah, the tweets are funny because the head developer had some tweets along. So I have enough money to hire all the OwnCloud people that want a job, and so they did. And now they have Nextcloud, which is the OwnCloud. It's not that the OwnCloud, it sounds like they lost some developers. The OwnCloud Inc.
So did they fork their project?
They forked it.
Their own project.
Yeah. And they're moving it over. I guess there's some, not super clear management disagreements, but they're developing on Nextcloud now. I'm assuming there's going to be some easy migration to switch from one to the other if they're using the same framework.
So people who are using OwnCloud at home?
For now, I'm sure it'll still work until you go to update it, and then there'll be there won't be updates.
There may not be updates anymore for it. That's kind of what I'm guessing is going to happen. And me and Tony both run our own OwnCloud server. So OwnCloud Inc. was the business end of it that offered hosting. So you don't want to run your own server. You could run it on their system. So you're still using an open source client, but they would do the hosting on the back end for you.
Okay.
That company, which their last round of funding was about 6.3 million. So they weren't insolvent. They had money, as my understanding. They just had management problems. So.
Yeah, and what is it? 9 out of the 10 top developers went over to Nextcloud.
Well, I think that kind of tells you where to go.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so that's why I didn't even hear about it until we were talking on the way in. I don't know where I've been, just too busy to read news, I guess. But yeah, I'm definitely going to look into it. You got 3 kids, Tony.
Think about it. You're very busy.
Yeah, I would assume that there's Frank will have some kind of update process because if it's based on the same code base, then they should be able to do the same upgrade. But then as the upgrade happens, they'll just switch all the names.
Here's actually, I just found the link I was looking for. Nextcloud 9 will be based on OwnCloud 9 and will enable easy upgrade to future Nextcloud releases and allow enterprises to smoothly transition from OwnCloud Enterprise Edition to the supported Nextcloud version.
Sweet.
Keyword is supported.
Yeah.
And we will provide a Nextcloud Enterprise subscription, which will provide functionality enterprise users. The enterprise users are used to. So yeah, it sounds like their goal is to just fork it, move on over, and away you go. This is a nice thing about open source projects is, they're not locked down. They're, we can say, if you don't agree, we can do something better. This has happened with a few projects, and it's also gone the other way because a lot of people talked about when PF Sense, a group of people tried to fork it. It's a very incomplete, and it turns out their complaint was PF Sense partnered with one company for a lot of the hardware backend, and the other company wanted to start another hardware company that competes with them. But they trained to say it was all a security thing, but everyone's like, no, not really. All these guys that forked it all work for this other hardware company and are trying to sell more hardware boxes like they do. And anything I've read so far, the project's not quite as complete, not as well developed, and not as up to date.
Yeah.
So they made some changes. They made an interface change right away because that was everyone's complaint for a long time. Like, PF Sense is ugly. Well, it's a firewall.
They made it look pretty, and then that's not the instant solution. And the last thing I have is someone made a really cool website called linuxjourney.com. And he's a guy who's got some art skills and put together a website of his Linux journey of learning Linux. And as he's learning, he's creating these tutorials. And they're actually really, you don't often see this. It's a really well artistically laid out website that's easy to follow and has different tutorials, all very organized information. He just started putting it together and did a great job. And this is just someone's personal project. And it looks very professional. It does. It looks nice. Yeah, there's Grasshopper level, which is getting started.
Yeah.
Command line.
Journeyman.
Learn the ways of Linux foo for free. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. And it starts at your young grasshopper or a journeyman or a networking nomad. He's got networking basics and sharing and everything. It was just clever.
That is cool.
He just wants to make learning easy. I guess as they were learning it, and started putting this together. Yeah, it's one of those. I started as a project kind of people, and it's really clever. It's got I looked at it and was going through like this is great. He's still adding more and more information, but it's enough to get you the basics. And the framework he used to build it is way more intuitive than a lot of this what we're used to.
Yeah, I really like it. I'm going through looking at one of the first extras, modules or whatever, the history, and it looks really nice. It's well laid out, and then there's exercises you can go through on the right side, and there's questions or quizzes. Yeah,
and this is something I really like to see as open source gets developed. Is we've always had the techies, we've always had the people who do really long, well laid out as far as verbiage, but not visually good for man pages and things like that. This kind of helps users because good design matters a lot, and people are starting to realize that. We love the better interfaces and things like that. So I thought this was well laid out, and you've got little quizzes and everything. So this is just kind of cool.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of our users might like it. So it's linuxjourney.com. It's just free learning. There's not even any ads on it. I don't know what his plans are. He's going to start.
Well, I suspect he'll probably he'll get a certain threshold of users, and then he can then approach various ad companies and say, "Hey, I've got maybe 10,000 a day or something." I don't know.
Or hopefully not, and he just says, "Can you throw money my way?" Because all he's got to cover is hosting and time, and
hosting and time. That's the time.
It's the time part. That's actually the hardest part.
You know that, Tom.
That's it. That's the bottom of my news list.
All right.
What do you got, Tony?
You can, for that same website, you can add, you can subscribe to their newsletter. And so I just subscribed. So, yay. Oh, it's based on MailChimp as their newsletter. But I have 2 articles. The first one that just came out last night was by Krebs on security. And it says credit card breaches at CC's Pizza.
Oh,
and so there's.
They've got some of those in Metro Detroit, I think, don't they?
I'm pretty sure. It says there's 500 stores in over 35 states.
Yeah.
CC's is based in Capel, and he said he had the run around trying to find information on it. So it's an interesting read in his article. And there's when he called the home company, they said, "Oh, somebody else is doing our public relations." He tried calling them. They said somebody else is doing the security for it. So he tried checking their site, and their site was hacked. Google wouldn't let him to go to. So it's Data Point is the company, and I guess they do POSs. And so when he tried to contact Data Point, their website was hacked, and Google wouldn't let him go to his website or their website. But then he went through and read on there's when he called Data Point, that he got a voicemail back from the vice president saying that that it was his sources must have a beef with his company. Or so I'm sorry. So Krebs sources must have a beef with the Data Point company. And he has the whole voicemail he transcribed out. And
really?
I'm not going to read it on the thing, but it's funny. So I guess what happened is
so in other words,
he finally did find some info.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask how many million. Is there an estimate of how many credit cards were affected by this?
Not yet, because it's still fairly new.
Okay.
But at least not in his article.
And most of those people probably have no idea.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Think about it.
So he says what happened is that there was some people called into the tech support posing as technicians, and to be able to get into the POS, and they got in.
Okay. So they called CC's Pizza and impersonated.
Right. And he actually got that info off of Reddit.
Yeah.
People on Reddit says, let's see, let me read it verbatim. It says, "Interesting. This apparent breach comes to light amid a great deal of speculation on Reddit and other places online about a possible data breach at TeamViewer. The idea is the countless credit card terminals or cash registers at CC's Pizza establishments and other businesses have been compromised by cybersecurity or cyber criminals who simply phoned up the establishments posing as tech support technicians for various point of sales vendors and was able to get in. So that's crazy.
Well, but think about it. If you're somebody who's not maybe necessarily in IT, unless these crooks called the IT department or something, you know, and they sound plausible. I mean, people are going to be trusting and.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because that attack vector is not one that I've really heard much about. I mean, they've contacted. I know that criminals have contacted. You know, they sent the emails. They've contacted HR maybe, but to pose as the IT department.
Well, and usually you don't hear much about it
support.
because they're supposed to have the help desk or whatever they're calling into. They're supposed to have policies and procedures that you verify who you're talking to before you give them, you know, credentials or give them access to sensitive things. So apparently, some of these places that they called don't have that in place, or
it wasn't followed,
or the help desk wasn't followed. Right.
Yeah, because you know, if I were going to do something nefarious like that, what I would do is I would find out, you know, that whatever point of sale vendor has that equipment, I would go and learn something about the vendor itself and know some of the names of the people there, some of that, so that when I'm then talking with someone, I would have more of an air of credibility.
Right.
That's how I would do it. And then you kind of lull them, you lull them with some talk and hey, before you know it.
Exactly.
I was about to say lull them with pillow talk, but
social engineering.
Going back to our pillow discussion.
Yeah, the pillow discussion.
Were we on the air when we talked about those
No.
pillows? Oh,
No.
okay. Never mind, everybody.
Never mind.
Okay. Anyway,
All
but it was
right.
pillows. That's all we were talking about. So.
So my last article is that the U.S. Federal Reserve cyber breaches.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah. So apparently, in the last 4 years, or between 2011 and 2015, there was 50 cyber breaches.
And I think a lot of money gets removed, doesn't it?
You know, I didn't get to read through the whole thing. I was reading through the Reuters article.
Part
And
of my
it's
former
interesting.
company.
Yeah. It's interesting that there's a few diagrams in there that shows how many were like malicious code and how many were unauthorized access. And it's just.
Wasn't Anonymous after them for a little while and was going to release some Fed information inside? I
Federal Reserve?
Yeah, I know Anonymous said they were after them for a little while on a few things. I never really followed up on whether they ever accomplished anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, and I'm not looking at that chart, but I'm trying to figure out whether the attack came in directly to the Federal Reserve, which would be kind of freaky, or whether it's through one of the member banks that has an account there, or they kind of segued in through there.
Well, turn on C-SPAN because there's now a House committee being formed to investigate it.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, they're still investigating Hillary Clinton's Benghazi.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm linking to the Reuters article, and then I'm also going to link over to the SANS article or listing of articles, because the one thing I like about the SANS.org website is that they'll give, like, that's the headline, and then they give 3 different sources that talk about that topic.
That kind of reminds me of Newsy. They do the same thing where they'll have a topic, but they've collected information from multiple sources. I like that because then, in my mind, it gives it a little more credibility.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I was able to find this time.
Wow, Tony, you found a lot. Wow. Okay. We started big and we're going to end small. Actually, I've been on kind of a robot kick. Anybody who's talked to me or reads my posts in Google Plus knows that I'm on a robot kick. And the Daily Beast, which is kind of a news and politics and, entertainment site, they were talking about, there's an article there about robots are taking white collar jobs too. And what kind of caught my eye about this is, Tom, we talked about Tony too. We mentioned that AI lawyer that the students, the AI grad assistant that the students didn't know was fake until the end of the semester. But there was a 18-year-old computer science major he's a computer science major in the UK. He had apparently reached his wits end with trivial excuses for levying fines for traffic incidents, tickets, and that kind of thing. So what he did is he created the site called donotpay.co.uk to log complaints. And what his site did is it would go out and collect pictures and other information about ambiguous signs and that type of thing, and let the people that posted the complaints use this information as part of their court case to get out of these fines. And apparently it was fairly effective. And they were able to generate, they said they could generate winning appeals to parking tickets in seconds. So, and it helped them avoid thousands of dollars in fines, or is it thousands of pounds? But you get the point. So then he's decided to upgrade the service, and he's calling it the world's first robot lawyer. Do Not Pay now does more than just register complaints for parking tickets. They said he got the guy that runs this, Browder, he got so many emails asking for help that he modified the site to more closely replicate a human lawyer. So what happens is that when you contact the site, it will generate this text conversation that looks very much human-like. But unlike Microsoft's recent debacle with Tay chatbot, Browder's AI doesn't insult or seduce people. Instead, it delivers real-time legal advice, answers questions, and files claims for basic legal situations, all for free.
Wow.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So, but anyway, and I think I want to say, and now there's Ross, an automated attorney whose artificial intelligence integrates legal knowledge with natural language capabilities. So I think the point I'm trying to make is that there's some very significant AI activity going on in that whole legal area.
Yeah.
But the companies, and I may have mentioned this on one of our last recordings, companies, and that's my former company. They have hundreds of research attorneys that go in and analyze the case law, that decisions that have been made, and then make that available in online searching. Those folks are going to be replaced with robots.
Right.
We're all going to be replaced with robots.
I think there's going to have to be some point of human interaction where they're verifying info that gets put in there and everything. But what would be good is to be able to pair both the online search with something like what your previous company had with their data source, to be able to put that together for even better wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, I think eventually, though, the automated will be superior.
Yeah.
I mean, as AI learns more and more, I just think it's going to rival. I mean, I just think it's bound to.
It's an interesting perspective. It's like we talked a little bit last time in the show is, can we replace the judges and big pieces of the legal system? So much of it's functional and based on case precedents. Read the case precedents and only let humans handle the exceptions. Because so many things like a parking ticket. Someone's right, someone's wrong. Present your evidence as long as the evidence is compelling. I know I won 2 tickets against the city of Detroit for parking.
Hey.
Did you?
Yes, I did. They have an online automated parking ticket fighter.
Really?
Yes, they do. And
the city does, or somebody?
The city does themselves.
So you can fight its own. So it allows you to fight its own parking tickets.
Yeah. So I got a ticket and I logged in online, and then because I knew the ticket was undeserved, I took about 10 photos and I uploaded the photos and then typed up 2 paragraphs of why I didn't deserve the ticket. And I even included things like, they said I couldn't park there before 9 a.m., but the sign was all the way at the very end of the block that says it's like an entire city block away. There's one sign that says you can't park before 9 a.m. on the street. And my argument was that the machine took my money. I use the app, and if the machine's taking the money, then I can't park here. Why does it take the money? And I pointed out that there's only a single sign on an entire city block at one end, and I parked at the other end.
I like them taking the money when it's
that's when I started with. But I went, and they said fine you. And I think they also seen a guy who takes 10 pictures and writes 2 paragraphs of why I don't deserve a ticket is probably going to be a pain in our butt.
Yeah, right. Well,
I don't think they read it. They're like, oh, he wrote a lot.
No, I have to believe that somebody read what you wrote. That the whole idea about accepting the money without notifying you and say you can't park here.
Yeah. And the other one I thought was said I was unloading my vehicle, and they said a non-commercial vehicle. And I'm like, I took pictures of the vehicle and a picture of the registration and sent it to him. Like, one, it's registered commercially. If you look up the license plate, it doesn't have my name on it. It has my company name because my company owns the vehicle. It's wrapped in company logos.
I've seen your vehicle.
Yeah. What part of this does not think it's a commercial vehicle? And they wrote me for stopping in a commercial zone for not commercial. I was there unloading cable for a job. Literally, I was there 15 minutes. I carried the cable out. I locked the door. I went inside.
Because it wasn't a truck. That's why.
Yeah, I think it's because it wasn't a truck. But I mean, it's clearly a commercial vehicle.
Now you just giving me an idea. I'm going to go get some magnetic signs made, and I'm going to slap them on my car when I need to park somewhere.
So,
am I bad?
Yeah, I tell you, it works.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah,
I'm sure others have done that.
Yes, like my employees who have when they drive their own personal vehicles. Yes, they do that. And oddly, they
I thought it up.
Oddly, my friend did not get a ticket for driving his personal vehicle. And we have stickers, and he put a sticker on it and didn't get a ticket. And they gave me one, and mine's wrapped and legally registered. If you looked up the license plate,
that's the city of Detroit.
Thank you, city of Detroit.
All right, we're not going to beat the city up too much.
No, but
it's doing some good things.
But with like I alluded to earlier, with Google's Tensor and now Amazon open sourcing theirs, as more and more of this AI becomes crowdsourced developed, I think we're going to see more and more intelligent things. And so the automation level is getting better. They'll still need podcasters. I don't think our jobs. You don't want robots reading in the news. Right. Our jobs are safe.
Well, but along those
for now.
Yeah, for now. Yeah, but let me just say that you probably saw my post last night. Hang on a minute. I go to the site, and of course I get this huge this screen big flash ad. This was in the Detroit. Actually, it was in USA Today. But it pops up on the Free Press site because they're owned by USA Today or the same company. New emojis include bacon, pancakes, and face palm. And my comment on that, my comment on that is when you think about civilization, we started off communicating in pictures, and that's how we will end when the robots mercifully will stop this madness. Because think about it now, all these pictures, we're using pictures to communicate, and that's how we started off. We've come full circle is what I'm trying to say.
Or did the Egyptians start out with written word and evolved into...
Well, when the aliens dropped us off here, they're coming back.
They used to have written word and they go, it's better to show emojis. And that's how we're going to write our whole histories in emojis. And it makes sense to us. So we're finally advanced enough to understand the Egyptians.
So 1,000 years when somebody shows up here and think, wow, look at that bacon.
Yeah. Right. He likes bacon, pancakes, and he eat too much and he face palmed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So anyway, but that was my last little bit.
All right.
That's good though.
Okay. Well, I guess we're moving on to
music.
Not yet. Well, if you don't want to know what conventions are happening this month, we can move on to the music.
That's right. I forgot this is the first episode of the month.
That's
convention scene.
Yes,
it is the convention scene, and I do have some conventions to talk about. Actually, quite frankly, we did talk about one of them already. We talked about BSD Can, which is next week, and that's in Ottawa, Ontario. And hang on a minute here. I've got a few. There we go. I think it's going to open. Yes. And BSD Can is it is at the University of Ottawa in the DMS. That's all right, Des Maris. But actually, that's not how it's pronounced. It's probably the Des Marais building. Did that sound French? And will be preceded by 2 days of tutorials on the 8th and 9th of June. That's Wednesday and Thursday. Now, BSD Can is a BSD conference held in Ottawa. Has quickly established itself as a technical conference for people working on and with 4.4 BSD-based operating systems and related projects. So you can be brand new and you can be well experienced. I guess they've got something for everybody.
All right.
We also have coming up on, let's see here, the 10th through the 12th of June. I think that's next weekend, as a matter of fact. We've got the Southeast Linux Fest, and that is going to be at the Sheraton Charlotte Airport Hotel in Charlotte, North Carolina. I wonder how they're going to do the bathroom thing there. Oh, just kidding. Have you heard that discussion? In North Carolina, they kind of, okay. Yeah. All right, that's probably a little esoteric joke there, but anyway, And one funny thing is that, if you take Southeast Linux Fest, it's SELF, self.
Self. Yeah.
So I suppose if you attend it, you're called a selfie. It's a community event for everyone who wants to learn more about Linux and open source software. It's part educational conference and part social gathering. It sounds like Penguicon, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like Linux itself, it is shared with attendees of all skill levels to help communicate tips and ideas. So that sounds like a lot of fun, and that's June 10th through the 12th, 2016. Also, just right after that, if you want to hop on a plane and go to Tokyo, there's LinuxCon and ContainerCon Japan 2016. Now, this is the premier Linux conference in Asia that brings together a unique blend of core developers, administrators, users, community managers, and industry experts. And that is at the Shinzan-so Hotel and Conference Center in Tokyo, Japan. But not to be left out, we have got OpenSUSE Conference 2016, and this is in Nuremberg, Germany, and this is June 22nd through the 26th. This is the annual OpenSUSE community event that brings people from around the world together to meet and collaborate. The organized talks, workshops, birds of a feather session, all of those together provide a framework for more casual meetups and hack sessions. So, and of course, they've got their little parties and all of that type of thing. But that's June 22nd through 26th, 2016 in Germany.
All right.
And speaking of Germany and actually Europe, they've had quite a bit of flooding over there. I mean, some really horrendous, horrific pictures of flooded, cars and trucks floating down streets. It's just, it's really crazy. I saw it on the news. I'm the only one that watches the news on TV, I found out today.
Yeah.
You guys don't watch it. So I watched it and found this out. So, and
well, thank you, Mary.
That's the Linux convention scene, at least the ones that I'm aware of, the major conventions for June 2016.
All right. So I guess we're coming toward the end of the show, right? We're on to outro music.
Painfully, yes, we are.
The outgoing music for tech news and
nope, wrong one.
Tony dropped the phone.
Yeah, we're gonna
show.
We have some Mando music, and I picked out one that's called Hot Summer, since we're at the beginning of summer. And let's do a search. You can tell I've
well, we'll fill in. That's all right, Tony. While you, I'm just kind of curious. It's a hot summer, although technically we had a little bit of heat, but now we're in the 70s.
Yeah, back down to the summer, but
lows at night in the 50s, highs in the day in the upper 70s. It doesn't get much better than that.
I love it.
I know.
Right.
I do too.
And it's by Nihil Novi. All right. So that was our song of the week, Hot Summer. Oh, not this one. Why is it playing?
All right.
I didn't want it to play
That's
the
all
next
right.
one.
Well, that's okay. Just that's called a preview of the next song.
Preview
The end of the
from
next
you.
episode.
Not next episode.
All right.
Anyway, so I guess we're coming toward the end of the show now, right?
Mm-hmm. We're
This is
careening.
the
We're
end.
careening.
Right.
We're careening toward the cliff.
Yes.
Yeah. So this, you've been listening to the Sunday Morning Linux Review. This was episode 196.
New digs.
New studio.
Oh, new.
That's right.
The new studio.
I had a very short memory, didn't I? There. All right.
This is Tony Bemis.
Mary Tomich.
And Tom Lawrence.
See you next time.
All right.
Okay.
So we're not going to take a break between shows. We're going to go right
We
into the
already
next
did.
one.
We snuck one during the music.
That's right.
Yeah. I needed water.
Yeah.
All right. So here's starting the new one.
The Sunday Morning Linux Review with Mary Tomich, Tom Lawrence, and Tony Bemis as the beeper.
And this is episode 197,
Fresh looks. Linux Lite.
Linux Lite.
That's right. This is the episode, as you loyal listeners know, this is the episode where we take a fresh look at something. And this, and then since Linux Lite just released version 3.0 this past week, well, actually, when this show airs, it'll be 2 weeks ago. But anyway, recently, I guess we'll say, I wanted to take a fresh look at it because I had reviewed it a few years ago and found it to be a nice little distro. And I just thought, hey, 3.0, time to take another look at it. And I'm also interested in distros that are intended for older machines because I appear to have a lot of those hanging around the house. And, I'm getting that new Mac.
Yeah.
But anyway, this distro, and that is Linux Lite, allows equipment that might otherwise end up in the scrap heap to enjoy additional time as useful tools. I wrote that all by myself. So this fresh look is, I already said that. So anyway, so it is Linux Lite. Now, Linux Lite touts itself as a Linux distro for new users. I call them Windows refugees. So refugees are welcome. But to that end, Linux Lite maintains a rather lengthy table on their website to show people who might be migrating from Windows to Linux all the different Windows programs and their Linux equivalent. I mean, you've seen those, but these guys on their website, I found their website to be actually very helpful and very robust, but they've got a lengthy table to show all those programs. Of course, anybody that's going to be, that's used Access and then they're going to use Base, they'll discover, maybe it's not quite as equivalent as they had hoped, but anyway, I think in most cases it's going to be more than adequate. But the vitals, of course, the name is Linux Lite, and by the way, this is 3.0 I'm going to be talking about. The distro's latest birthday was, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. So it's fresh, very fresh. And we're going to look at it. It's a derivative of Ubuntu 16.04 long-term support edition. So they can expect, Linux Lite users can expect support for several years. The kernel version is Linux 4.4. And, that's all I wrote on here. Actually, there's probably a few more somethings after that. So my apologies for not having that here. But the review desktop is a heavily modified XFCE desktop. Now, the live environment, actually, I went ahead and, Tom, I have to tell you, I think, what were you doing over there? Anyway, just kidding. I think you guys, I was lamenting the fact that I had ordered my Limbo desktop and it didn't have a CD driver or CD-ROM or CD-ROM, DVD drive. And you guys had mentioned to go to Micro Center.
Yes.
See, that's another what I did. I did go to Micro Center and I got a nice Samsung DVD drive for, I think it originally was like $50. It's very thin, but it was like $29. I couldn't believe it. I thought, well, it's a brand name. It looks like it's unopened, so I'm going to go ahead and get it. So that's what I used actually I did downloads. I was going to put it on a USB stick and I thought, now I'm going to test this drive out and see how it works. It actually worked really well. So, and that allowed me to boot to the customized XFCE desktop that Linux Lite has. And what's nice about it is that when the desktop initially comes up, it's very clean. Couple icons on there, one of which, of course, is the install icon, which I always like to see because that makes it very, very convenient. And one thing, too, that Linux Lite does, and I think this is really helpful for new users, it will bring up a dashboard of options. Some of them are system-based, some of them are support-based, such as help, online support, that type of thing, provided that your wireless works. Just giving you a hint. And then it is. And when both of your test systems use Broadcom chips, it's just a downer, let me tell you. So I will say this. I have my network cable nearby, so as not to detract from my Linux Lite experience. But anyway, and then there's another one too called Contribute. So they provide you with the opportunity to contribute code. You can contribute money, or you can contribute to increasing the knowledge about Linux Lite on social media. So it's really a nice little dashboard. And the graphics, I think it did use the i9-15 graphics chip. That's the standard Intel chip that my test systems use, and that they look good. And of course, as I mentioned or hinted at earlier here, or just a few minutes ago, it's no surprise that the Broadcom drivers are not loaded for the live portion of review. And let me tell you, I was still struggling, and I didn't get started with this review until a little later than I wanted to. And I still haven't gotten I got all the Broadcom stuff. I've got it installed and I'm trying to tweak it to get it to work, but ultimately I didn't get it to work. So I'm just going to tell you up front. And actually I'm going to tip my hand as far as my take on this distro. And that's really the only negative thing I had about this distro. I think if you don't use Broadcom, you just got the standard Intel wireless chip. I think that this distro is an excellent distro for older systems. And I'm gonna still work on the Broadcom thing and see if I can get it to work. And if I can, then I'm going to use this instead of, as I mentioned earlier, use this instead of the Plasma on my 2 gig netbook.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the dashboard, I mentioned the dashboard. And by the way, too, the Start Here column on that dashboard, it lets you install updates and drivers. And interestingly enough, it did note that I was using a Broadcom chip. So at first I thought, oh, this is great. I'm going to click this thing and there's some script that's going to run behind the scenes and it's going to go retrieve and down. Well, of course, you have to be plugged in for that to happen, but I was plugged in. But it's going to go download this stuff and like Robo Linux, because I've talked about Robo Linux, how they have that little menu item that when you click on it, it downloads all the drivers for whatever wireless chip you're using, and installs it and gets it all set up for you. But anyway, no. I went and clicked it. I even rebooted. I even did a Windows-like reboot, just as thinking, okay, maybe it'll load that module and this will work. It really didn't seem to help. But so anyway, but I'll quit whining about that. I do want to move on and mention that the resources required to run Linux Lite are actually really modest, and they've got those listed there right up front, so you can take a look at that. The minimum is 512 megs. and their recommended is 1 gig. I mean, that is modest. So my 2 gig netbook is just going to be a screamer with this distro.
Yeah.
But anyway, and also one nice thing too, and this kind of goes in line with its being available for older systems, is that it is available in both 32 and 64-bit versions. So I kind of like that. Let's see, moving on, I talked already about the middle column with the hardware database. You know, they've got they have a little tool in there that will, I guess it will allow you to kind of check and see what your hardware situation is. And they also, their website contains a plethora of information about various hardware arrangements that work with their distro. I mean, they've really gone up, in my opinion, they've gone really above and beyond, I think, what might normally be required for a Linux distro. You know, again, aside from that one little flaw I mentioned on the wireless thing, I just thought this was really a nice distro.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the defaults. The default browser is Firefox 46.0.1. The Office suite is LibreOffice 5.1.2.2, and it uses Thunderbird as its mail client, and then Thunar, of course, because it's XFCE, it uses Thunar as the file manager. And by the way, too, one of my favorite icon sets, and you know, I'm kind of into eye candy sometimes, is I believe it's pronounced Faenza. And I think it's Mac. I want to say that it kind of derived its look from Mac originally. What's really nice about the default icon set, and that's probably another reason why I liked it, is that they use the Faenza icon set. It's one of my favorites, and it's very consistent look and an attractive look. So if you're into eye candy, you might like that also. One thing too, and this is one little thing, if you are going to test this out in a live environment and you leave your laptop unattended for a bit, it's going to go to sleep. And that's not a big deal. That's typically what happens. And then you maybe jiggle the mouse, tap the space key, and it will wake up. Well, Linux Lite does wake up, but then it prompts you for a password. So I'm thinking, wow, well, okay, maybe demo, or, you know, username, password. Oh, that didn't work. I'll go to the website. Went to the website, looked around, didn't see it. Had to try to Google it. I ended up rebooting.
Oh no.
I did not really, and I thought I had found it was like a root thing, but it was not. That was not it either. So just a heads up, if anybody's going to evaluate this in the live environment, and don't let your system go to sleep, or if you do, you might want to just contact these folks, because I didn't have a chance to really contact them and say, hey, what's the password when it falls, when you want to wake it up. But also, when I was evaluating the live version, I did start the Lite Tweaks utility, and that's LITE Tweaks utility. What's really nice about this tool is that it lets you clean your system of files that you no longer use, as well as do things like set your default browser, change the computer host name, which I'm sure many new users want to do. I barely do that. Find files by size, etc. Hey, you want to get rid of those old kernels? Like Tweaks can take care of that too. It's really kind of nice because it's all those little things are kind of together in one spot. So again, this is a tool that was customized by the Linux Lite team to run on XFCE and help those new users. So I went ahead and just moved on to the install because I wanted to check this out. Now, because it's Ubuntu based, of course, Linux Lite follows the Ubuntu way. The install was very predictable and smooth. Of course, I had the option to manually partition my hard drive, but I opted to go with the system defaults, and I just pressed on. And after a few more standard questions were answered, you know, your standard Ubuntu questions, then files were copied and the install was completed, and I went ahead and rebooted to my new Linux Lite system. Let's talk a little bit about the installed environment. The first thing I did after reboot was to install the updates, and that went smoothly because I was plugged into the network cable.
Yeah.
The next stop then is to install the drivers. And, you know, again, I went back and I tried to install this Broadcom driver once I was installed, once the system was installed, just to see if I could get it working again. But, you know, as you've heard me say several times during the course of this review, that didn't work. So I went on to the interwebs to try to get it running. There are several help areas, and I did, you know, I downloaded and installed the B43 set. There's a number of different things, but you know, that's still a work in progress for me. Now, the next option with Linux Lite, and I'm going to shift gears here, is called Lite Software. Now, that doesn't talk about the weight of the software. It talks about the software that Linux Lite makes easily available for its users to install. Such programs as Dropbox, Skype, Steam, TeamView, Tor web browser, and VirtualBox. They're all the little window pops up and they're all nicely listed. You can check off the ones you want to install, and the system behind the scenes then goes ahead and takes care of all of that for you. I opted to install software just to kind of test it out. I think it was Chromium. And so what happens is the repositories are updated. Then you select install or remove. And again, this kind of walks you through the process. And then you select the hardware to be installed from the list. As I just mentioned, this is a pretty good list too. And it contains, in addition to the ones I mentioned, you can install OpenBox. They've got a webcam software called GUVC View. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that. Tony, do you have an idea?
It's a webcam program?
Yes. GUVC View.
I always use cheese.
Cheese, yeah.
Because I can remember the name of it. And I can say cheese.
And wine, yeah. and also wine, the emulator wine.
Yeah.
So I clicked Chromium and just waited for a few seconds and it was complete. And what's also nice too is that it immediately was available in the menu. So there have been times where I've installed software when I've been checking distros out where it hasn't shown up in the menu, but Linux Lite did a very nice job of taking care of that. Let's see here. A couple of other things I wanted to mention about it too is that it comes with a very solid set of software that most folks that are migrating from Windows, I think, will find helpful. And actually, it did a little bit of what I'm not going to really call it overkill because I always love backup software. I don't use it. I just like it.
Yeah.
But System Back is automatically available and installed. Now that's installed with the base system, and interestingly, it also includes Deja Dupe, another backup program. So both of them are included. So you really get a choice, and I'm trying to figure out why that would be. I think Deja Dupe, as I understand it, uses Duplicity, I think, as its backend. I try to dig in a little bit to find out what System Back uses, if it also uses Duplicity, but I didn't have much luck in the time that was allotted for that task to really find that out. A couple of other nice things: VLC is automatically included with the system. Mm-hmm. That's nice, and GIMP. And then also it includes that the GUFW firewall. Yeah, and I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised to see that, but that may be part of the stock XFCE install. I just know that.
Yes,
it's not part of the stock Ubuntu install. I don't think.
It's and that's what kind of surprised me. I mean, when I saw that, it surprised me in a pleasant way. It's like, oh wow, there's for anybody who wants to tweak their firewall, they can certainly do that. But anyway, as I mentioned before, I found Linux Lite to be a fairly robust system for new and migrating users to use. I'm planning on installing it on my systems, and I think any of you out there in listener land who want to give this particular distro a try should certainly do that. Their website is robust, as I've mentioned, and my old netbooks are gonna have this on there, I think.
The share hardware configuration database is interesting. I've seen that they have, so when it does, it's obviously opt-in, so they're not just stealing privacy information, but it has an auto switch in there. If it realizes you're running on a virtual machine, it doesn't bother asking. I thought that was kind of, someone thought ahead going, yeah, we don't want all you virtual machine people to report because there's nothing interesting there. But
yeah,
no, that's an interesting aspect of it, though, just to start building that hardware database, and hopefully they'll go, look, too many people run Broadcom. Let's work on that.
Yeah, actually, that makes sense.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. But their help manual is pretty nice too. And another thing too is that I believe that Synaptic is automatically installed. And even though they've got this other package management system I just spoke about, which has a nice list of packages, you can also use Synaptic if you want to go ahead and one of the first things I install whenever I upgrade is I put Synaptic back in my system because I like it. I'm used to it. It gives me a really good list of things. Mm-hmm. And I did like Linux Lite because it automatically included Synaptic.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that just was another little feather in its cap.
Yeah. And the auto update thing is kind of novel, to automatically load them in the background. Thing is, that's also something people don't always like about in Windows world, but I don't know. I think with Linux, it's okay because I never cringe every time there's an update. I just go, okay, I'll load an update. It doesn't like, brace for impact. I'm scared to death every time I open up any server on Windows that needs an update.
Yeah, really.
Linux updates always go pretty smooth. It's maybe a little concerning that the default option is automatically load without prompt, but
yeah, that's a good point, Tom. And I'm glad you did point that out. I think.
Did you say, was that all updates that it automatically does, or is it just security updates? Because there is a way to tell it to, install one set or another.
It says load update automatically. It doesn't say specifically which.
Yeah. Because I can understand doing security updates automatically in the background. Because if somebody's, a newbie to Linux or something, they don't want to do it all the time.
That's kind of my opinion on a lot of this. Is some people get upset going, "Oh no, I'm going to turn it off." Guess what? You can, as opposed to Windows where you can't. So, but for the less tech savvy people that are using this, we really prefer that they not get their machines zombied and turned into a threat. I don't really have a huge problem with automatic updates on Linux because generally those updates aren't coming with privacy concerns. They're not like Windows 10 that just goes, we're going to completely change your operating system and violate your trust you have with the OS. In Linux updates, generally, it's very rare they break anything. I mean, very rare.
Right.
And I'm someone who uses, all open source in my business, and I
don't know that Plasma. I had a little problem with my system, but I think I'm past it.
It's not a bad thing. And there's going to be more and more vulnerabilities found. It's not just features. It's like Jody said, there's a lot of security out there that things need to be updated. Chrome updates by itself now. Chrome and some of the browsers they just force update, which makes sense because they need it a lot.
Yeah, they do. But I always think it's nice to let you know when it happens.
Firefox, I'll let you know. Chrome's kind of suppressed it. Firefox lets you know because it lets you know there's updates to this browser. Would you like to restart your session now? And it says you say yes, and it just automatically updates.
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
Yeah, so at least it is telling you. But most of the updates are almost always to plug holes.
So we think. But
there's that.
Yeah. But anyway, so that I just wanted to. And that really concludes my my review of it. Again, it seemed pretty solid to me.
Yeah, and like you said, your Windows refugees will feel fairly at home with it because it's doing automatic updates, and it's got essentially the same start menu kind of layout option in the bottom left corner, like you do in Windows to run your programs. Was yours in that yellow like they're showing when you installed it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the splash screen is that yellow, and then it's got a feather to convey the idea that it's light.
Yeah.
And then light, although they don't spell L-I-G-H-T, it's L-I-T-E.
Yeah.
So anyway,
the light is a feather.
Right.
Just that yellow is really yellow.
Yeah,
it looks good though. The screenshots and everything look good on it.
Well, I think if you've got an old machine, I mean, the requirements are very modest, and again, as long as I can get a dual pane file manager on there, I don't know how people can operate without a dual pane.
I don't know how people operate with only one screen sometimes because
I know
I have so many files open and so many things open across 3 screens.
I know.
I agree. Dual pane is I need all the time, but I still use the default file manager. But
in what, Mint?
In Mint, and it's not Nautilus anymore.
It's Files, isn't it?
Probably.
Isn't that what it's called? I thought it changed to Files.
No, it's Nemo.
Oh, Nemo?
Nemo.
That's right.
And if I hit F3 though, it gives me 2 panes, and then I can copy right and left. And so that's really handy.
Now, can you set it up to open with 2 panes?
I have not found that. That's the one thing.
I bet you can. If you look, yeah, there may be a configure Nemo.
No preferences.
And when you find Nemo, sorry, that was a bad joke. Finding Nemo. But anyway, and I'm thinking about how I set it up with Dolphin, and I realized that Dolphin and Nemo are 2 separate file managers.
Right.
But there's got to be a configuration area where you could set that up. because again, I just think it's so nice to have, you can have your source and your destination all there on one screen. See, Tom, and that kind of helps, if you only have one screen like a laptop, you can kind of make it fake it,
No, I like the tab one. So
there are a lot of configurations, turn on certain icons on the toolbar, or make it just names or icons or whatnot. But I don't see the dual pane option on here.
On yours?
Maybe I'm just reading through too fast to.
Perhaps. Or perhaps it doesn't have it.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, we'll have to investigate that.
All right.
So anyway, folks, bottom line is give Linux Lite a look. Except if you have a Broadcom chip.
Unless you have Broadcom chips.
All right. So we've come to the end of the show. This was episode 197.
That's right. Fresh looks, Linux Lite.
This is Tony Bemis.
Mary Tomich.
And Tom Lawrence.
See you next time.
You've been listening to the Sunday Morning Linux Review. If you would like more information about this or other shows, go to smlr.us. Feel free to send comments to show@smlr.us or give us a call at 734-258-7009. I'm John Miller. If you don't like it, you can
bite my 8-bit metal ass. That's bite with a Y.
All right. So YouTubers, if you're still on here, we're going to do just a quick little announcement about our live shows coming up.
Is anybody out there?
Typically we do our 2 shows, and then 2 weeks later we come back for a live session and do 2 more. Although throughout the summer, we're busy, and it's just our recording sessions are happening to hit on right on holidays. So instead of recording on a holiday, what we're going to do is we're going to do a third non-live, I guess, recording or something. So last time I released my PenguinCon talk about security for the Leg Geek, and this next time we are still discussing what it's going to be, but it's going to be something recorded offline. I'll get into the our website feed. So check out smlr.us to find our latest shows. So the next time we'll be back, the next live session will be on June 26th. This will be the week after Father's Day.
And the week before 4th of July.
That's right. So we'll miss the 4th of July recording. So that's good. We'll
be
miss
crying
that day,
the whole time.
Yeah. All right.
All right. That must mean we're really wrapping it up.
I guess we are.
Yeah, actually wrapping up this time.
Yeah. Unless you guys have anything else you want to
we
say.
were faking you out all those other times.
All right. So goodbye, YouTubers.
Goodbye.